Dhaka is on the boil. About 100,000 supporters of Bangladesh's main opposition party came out on the streets of the capital Dhaka today. They are protesting against the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. The opposition is demanding fresh elections in the country. And in a bid to pressure the government, all the 7 members of parliament of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party have resigned from their position. While the government says that about 50,000 people gathered, the BNP says over 200,000 of its supporters assembled for this mega rally in Dhaka. The BNP is blaming Hasina for soaring fuel prices and rising cost of living in Bangladesh. They have demanded she step down to pave way for new elections under a caretaker government. Elections in Bangladesh are not due until the end of 2023.
I come from Chittagong along with a huge number of our supporters to join the rally to protest against the government of Hasina. She and her government are torturing our supporters all over the country, and today thousands of us have gathered here against her. I believe her autocratic government will fall very soon.
Tensions have been running high in Dhaka. 2 of the opposition party's top leaders were arrested on Friday over charges of inciting the violence, adding to 2,000 odd activists and supporters the party said had been detained since the 30th of November to try and prevent this protest rally from going ahead. The security forces had stormed the headquarters of the BNP on Tuesday, leaving at least 1 person dead and scores injured. Western governments, along with the United Nations, have expressed concerns over the political climate in Bangladesh, one of the fastest growing economies in Asia. The country was long aligned with the United States, but in recent years, Hasina has courted deeper ties with China, with Beijing bankrolling some of her multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects. For more on this story, we're now joined by Shamsher Chaudhry from Dhaka. He's a former Bangladeshi diplomat. Thank you so much for speaking to WION. Now, how do you see the resignation of the 7 Bangladesh Nationalist Party members from Parliament? We've also seen how thousands of people took to the streets during the BNP's mega rally today. How much is all of this likely to put pressure on the Sheikh Hasina government, which has so far completely rejected the opposition demand for fresh elections?
Well, thank you. First of all, the 7 members of parliament from BNP initially did not join the parliament. They refused to join the parliament. But, you know, if you did not join the parliament within 90 days of being elected, then the seat is declared vacant. So they just joined before the 90 days limit expired. So 7 out of 350 resignations, of course, would not make any difference to the parliament. The parliament has 1 more year to go anyway. So this will not have any impact on the government at all. The second thing is the demand for early election. Now it's only 1 year left. So what is the compulsion for the government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to resign? I frankly do not see any compulsion. The opposition are saying, and then one can see, of course, on the news and everything, that their rallies have been very significant, they're very large, but so have been the rallies of the government side, the Awami League. One can see that perhaps the Awami League turnout has been larger. Yes, one can argue that there had not been any obstruction, but the fact remains that Awami League is a very old party and it has a very deep grassroots connection. The third thing is the demand for an election under a non-party caretaker government. Such a provision does not exist in the constitution of Bangladesh. It did at one time, but that was taken out of the constitution in 2011 because to have a government run by unelected people runs against the very spirit and letter of our constitution, which was founded in 1972. So, I mean, the demand that are unconstitutional will have not much appeal to the government. I mean, the government will not feel any compulsion to do that.
Okay.
The important thing to remember is the government has never said that the elections are not going to be fair. The elections are not going to be participatory. I mean, the fact that the BNP is being able to hold rally, yes, there have been issues of arrests and all that, but the fact remains that they have been allowed, they are holding rallies, showed that there is actually an atmosphere where they can protest, they can say whatever they want to say. Their media has been writing very, very freely about it. So the elections will be held. The BNP should actually test its strength not on the streets, but at the polling booth. That is where the real test of the BNP will come.
Okay.
And BNP should not be afraid to go to the polls, and they should take part in the election.
It looks like they're not willing to wait till then. Let me just come in here. You know, it seems like they're not willing to wait until then. You were saying there is no compulsion for Sheikh Hasina to step down. She says the caretaker government would be in violation of the constitution. However, when you talk about free and fair elections, the allegation leveled by the opposition is that Sheikh Hasina's party was involved in large-scale rigging in the last two elections. But those allegations apart, Shamsher Chaudhry, how do you view Western capitals, in a sense, not just expressing concern over the violence that has taken place in Dhaka in the last few days, but also calling upon the government of Bangladesh to investigate the violence? We know the White House, for example, has asked for a thorough investigation. The United Nations has expressed its concern. And there are many Western governments that are today saying that the government of Bangladesh should allow free protests in the country.
Well, I think the countries' representatives which are saying this, they should also, I think they need to keep in mind, I mean, of course, one is allowed to express concern, but this is an internal matter for Bangladesh. I don't know why so much of, interference should be made by the foreign embassies. It's the people of Bangladesh will vote when given a chance, when the time comes for election. And the involvement of foreign governments is not something conducive. Now, in your initial report, you are saying that because the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government has moved closer to China, maybe an issue of concern to the Western countries. But that is not actually true. In fact, for very clearly, the Prime Minister and the present government has said that India is our most important strategic friend, neighbor, and partner. And the relationship between Bangladesh and India is unmatched by any other country. No other country can match the state of relations Bangladesh has with India right now. I was in Assam, Silchar, only last week on people-to-people contact event between the district of Sylhet and Silchar, which also has the same language. And the people's participation at both sides were immense and huge. And the connectivity between Bangladesh and India has grown. The trade between Bangladesh and India has grown exponentially. Bangladesh now exports more than $2 billion worth of goods to India, to Eastern India, to Mizoram. One private company in Bangladesh is exporting more than 1 crore Indian rupees a month. Mizoram, which is a very, very small population. So our relationship with India actually is far, far closer than with any other relation. Okay. And during the visit of our minister to India, I think Prime Minister Modi very clearly indicated that Bangladesh-India relationships are based on history and culture, and this goes beyond strategic relationship. With China, we have economic cooperation. Yes, of course, we have economic cooperation, but and some defense cooperation. But we have similar defense cooperation with India also. India is now one of our biggest development partners. $8 billion are being given by India in line of credit to Bangladesh. So it is not so much or the Taiwan or the China thing that the Western countries are concerned. That if that is the case, then they are not right, actually. I think we have maintained a very balanced foreign policy. Okay. Our relationship is stable with the Western countries. The United States is our biggest export market. Okay. European Union is our second biggest export market. And mega projects that you're talking about, the three most visible mega projects. One is the deep sea port in Matabari. One is the metro rail, which is under construction, will maybe operational very shortly. And the third is the very state-of-the-art third terminal of Dhaka airport. It's all Japanese funded and Japanese financed.
All right.
So,
I take your point, sir.
It's not.
I take your point.
So I think one should look for stability and not run into anything that would create anarchy. Because the last thing you want to see in your neighborhood is anarchy.
I understand, but the issue really here is not Bangladesh's proximity to China. The issue is the violence that we've seen on the streets of Dhaka, and the fact that even though you believe that there is no compulsion for the Prime Minister to resign, she does seem to be under immense pressure right now, given the number of protests that we have seen by the BNP in the last several months across Bangladesh. We'll really have to wait and see how this pans out over the next few weeks and months. But thanks very much, Shamsher Chaudhry, for sharing your perspective with us here on WION.
My pleasure.